Coaches. Blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, they can't hold a flame against you, ay. Blow the whistle, blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, got the game, it ain't no issue, yeah. Blowing the whistle, I had enough with you, the championship, it is gone. Ain't listen to you, I can't give it to you, cause you don't know what I've been on. This is the Coaches Podcast.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back into the Fantasy Coaches Podcast. I am your host, as always, guys, Coach Steve. Week 10 was interesting. A lot of fun things happened. A lot of shitty things happened. But, we made it through the weekend. We're moving on to week 11 almost here. There's a Monday Night Football, but who cares about that Monday Night Football game? It's all about week 11 here in fantasy football now at this point. We got waivers. We got some other things going on. We got the news. So let's dive right into it. We got our crew here. Coach Gibbs, what's going on, brother?
Happy Monday, everybody. Definitely was excited to see some of these comebacks yesterday, but let's put it all in the fold and looking forward to week 11.
Absolutely. And Coach John, what's going on, brother?
Nothing much. I got to watch my Patriots look absolutely terrible in Germany. So my Sunday started off terrible and, couldn't get much worse. So, yeah, I'm happy to be here Monday. I'm alive and well.
I love it. All right, guys. So, like I said, we have a lot of things to go through, so we're going to get right into it. News-wise, there's some things, again, nothing crazy. Players that were injured in Week 10, Tyler Heineke, Deshaun Watson, Alexander Madison concussion. That is probably something that we'll take note in our waivers because most likely if he has a concussion, he's probably not playing in Week 11. Derek Carr, Michael Thomas, Baker Mayfield. I think Thomas's injury could be significant. I'm not sure yet. So Carr's on a bye, so you don't have to worry about him. I know Deshaun Watson's getting extra testing done, but he said he's going to play in week 11. Baker seems fine as well. T. Higgins did not practice today, and his week 11 game on Thursday Night Football is in a lot of doubt already. So that's a lot of fun if you're a T. Higgins owner. Aaron Rodgers states that he might be back mid-December, which would be crazy, but I guess anything is impossible for the 39-year-old quarterback. Jermichael Hasty signs with the Patriots, so that's interesting for a pass-catching role in dynasty leagues. But yeah, again, nothing crazy. I'm not going to worry about the Rodgers thing until it actually happens. You can say a lot of talk. Madison's the big one. I'm sure we're going to come up with some we're going to come up with his replacement probably on a waiver segment at some point. I don't know if there's anything you guys want to say out loud or you're good.
No, just to reiterate that the Michael Thomas news is not looking good out of New Orleans. They do think it is some level of a significant injury. So, I don't know what that means. I don't know who is relying much on Michael Thomas this year for fantasy, but that's just something to take note of.
Poor guy, though. Poor guy.
I know. I feel bad.
He had a rough weekend. He was arrested Friday, making noise at his house, and now he's potentially not playing anymore this season. I don't know. But, yeah, we'll have to wait on that. Again, news-wise, we'll find out more later at some point, probably on Thursday, about a lot of stuff. So let's talk about some other things before we get into our Waiver Wire talk, guys. I figured this is the part of the season you're almost pretty much certain whether you're in, you're out, but there's a lot of people more times than not are in that sweet middle area where you're like, I don't know if I'm going to win. Whether you're playing redraft or dynasty, you're still kind of torn on what your season's going through. There's very few people that are like, oh, I'm locked in. Or there's very few people like my season's over or time to start rebuilding. There's very few people in that spot and then trade deadlines are coming soon. We're going to talk about some trades, not today, but probably in the next few episodes, we will talk about more trades. But I want to talk about rest of the season, regular season, strength of schedule. Because I figured everyone's worried about the playoffs. Get to the playoffs. You have to get to the playoffs first. It's all great to have those playoff players for your team, which is great. You all want that. But you also need to make it to the playoffs here. And what I have here is the strength of schedule from week 11 to week 15. So it does go into the playoffs, but it does help you get from now into the playoffs until at least the semifinals at least. So we're going to dive into that a little bit right now. So let's get into that. And what I have here is the top quarterbacks and the worst quarterbacks from the next 5 weeks here now, week 11 to week 15. And we'll go through each section real quickly, a little brief discussion about each one, and then we'll get into waivers. So start with the best. The top 5 best remaining schedules for the quarterback position are Lamar Jackson, Brock Purdy, Deshaun Watson, Jordan Love, and Jared Goff. So let me ask you guys, which one of these don't you really believe in? Like, is there one of them that are like, you know what? I don't care if the schedule is good. I just prefer to stay away from that situation. Who is that situation? Who is that person?
I'll let Jibs go.
It'll be Jordan Love and Deshaun Watson for me. Like, those guys just seem like they just can't get out of their own way, especially with Watson just kind of just being hampered. You see him play, he's out, goes in the locker room, comes back. Like, I just don't know what to do with that guy. And Jordan Love is just not doing anything special. Just low volume passing. They just want to run the ball. But I'll stick away from those two. But other than that, like, I don't think you can get your hands on Lamar Jackson. But Goff is very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
John, how do you feel about
the same? I don't mind Deshaun Watson. The question is always going to be if he's in the lineup, and if he's starting, then sure, you play him. But he just every week it's something, and that's a scary game to play. And then Jordan Love for sure. I'm with Jibs here. I don't care about strength of schedule with Jordan Love. You need to. You need your weapons to perform better. You need to throw the ball downfield. You need to have some explosive plays. If you want to win fantasy weeks, what's nice here is if you do have Jordan Love in like a 2-quarterback setup, he's not going to kill you. But I'm not, looking at this schedule, licking my lips to get Jordan Love in my lineup. I'm just like, okay, he's not going to, pull a Trevor Lawrence like this past week. Like, he's not going to totally blow up in my lineup.
Right, absolutely, yeah. And the other person I want to mention here is now Lamar Jackson, guys. Obviously, we've seen Lamar Jackson struggle the last month and a half now, under 20 fantasy points in 5 of the last 6 games. Does this encourage you to maybe want to go out and trade for Lamar Jackson, or are you trying to avoid him still in his fantasy aspects, though the schedule looks good moving forward?
I'm not trying to avoid him. I think in any sort of sharp football, fantasy football player has noticed it's just all the touchdowns have been rushing. And it's just been Gus Edwards and Justice Hill and all these people have just been scoring those touchdowns. But Lamar looks great. He's throwing the ball well. I mean, he missed Zay Flowers on what would have been a pretty bomb touchdown. It's one of those things where Lamar just 1 week he could have 40 points. 1 week he could have 17. It just depends on where the touchdowns go. And lately it's been going to all the running backs. I don't think, Gus Edwards is going to continue to score 1 or 2 touchdowns a game. I just don't think that's going to happen. So I'm willing to, still bet and ride Lamar all the way through the playoffs. If you can acquire him for a playoff run for relatively cheap, I absolutely would. I wouldn't be scared of, the past couple of weeks as an indication for like lack of ceiling.
Right. And actually, this is a great topic for our first question of the day, guys. From Cruz Garcia here. Guys, he has a pretty stout team here right now. Mm-hmm. Gibbs, A-Chain, Williams, Pollard, Chuba. He's got Diggs, Lamb, Puka, Dell. He's got Lamar Jackson as quarterback. And his biggest question is, do you ride out with Lamar Jackson? Or do you consider like Brock Purdy? Do you consider trying to package Jackson and carry on maybe Williams, a running back who should be coming back in week 11 for another quarterback? Maybe like a Hurts or a Stroud or a Tua. Would you rather go in that direction with Lamar Jackson, even though now his schedule is probably one of the better ones in fantasy?
I mean, that roster is crazy, first of all. Second of all,
let's bring this down. Purdy or Lamar? Rest of the season, who would you prefer?
Lamar. I'm playing Lamar. Yeah, I'm playing Lamar, and I wouldn't even. If anything, I don't know if you have to. I mean, who are you really going to upgrade Lamar to? Maybe Jalen Hurts, maybe Mahomes, maybe Josh Allen. Like those 3 guys, you could say, okay, like that's an automatic upgrade. Everybody else in the league, I don't care. Everybody else in the league is like, yeah, they're maybe an upgrade. So I'm sticking with Lamar. I'm rolling with that. If you want to make a trade, I don't know if I'm putting Kyron Williams in there. I'm floating Tony Pollard out and being like, hey, I got a starting running back for a superstar offense. Like, what can I get? Kyron, when he was healthy, was locked and loaded high-end RB2, and he's coming back to, action soon. And I would much rather take the chance that Kyron Williams comes back to form than Tony Pollard figures it out rest of the season. So, that team's great. I think it's just you've done all the right things. Your team looks good. I think you just kind of ride it out, and you hope you catch some fire with Lamar, because I don't really know what upgrades are out there, if I'm being honest.
So Lamar Jackson is QB8 in that spam of him not playing ultra well. He is QB8 on the season still. Yeah. So, I mean,
yeah, it's fine. That's fine. I mean, and we're talking about him not playing well. We're talking about him stinking or not being good for fantasy, and he's still.
He hasn't. That's the thing. He hasn't.
That's the thing. But I guess my point is like Lamar, even not a good Lamar, is still a top 10 quarterback. It's still like okay. I don't know. I get it that it's not having these like 35, 40 point games, but I mean, I don't know where else you're going to turn to and try and replicate that.
Yeah, the only person I could think of would be Josh Allen, but I'm sure the manager is going to want a fortune for him too. But he has all the assets, so like if he could do that, I'll do it. But I'll definitely stick with Lamar.
I mean, here's a question, and this one's a little bit closer, and maybe you could do it, but I don't know if I would. But like a Herbert, like would you go with a Justin Herbert or Lamar Jackson rest of the season? Like that one is, maybe.
Well, that actually helps answer into our worst schedule because Justin Herbert has the worst remaining schedule for a fantasy quarterback this year.
Yeah.
So that is a good question. And to me, I'll answer it here, and I think I'm going to lean with Justin Herbert personally. I still think Herbert is a little bit more consistent of an option. I think that what you're getting is that Lamar Jackson doesn't need to do – the Ravens are doing well. They don't need to have him throw the ball that much. And they're allowing their running game, which is thriving right now, to just do all the work. So why get away from that? I know that they wanted to say, you're welcome, Cruz. They wanted to throw the ball more. Well, the run game's working, so why go away from what they're doing right now in fantasy? To have a better day. We know that the Chargers defense is garbage and they're going to need you to throw the ball. So I want Justin Herbert as a guy long term the rest of the season because he's going to end up throwing the ball a ton. Jackson might not.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. That to me is the one where I could, you maybe you could kind of do that. You might even be able to get it for a straight swap. You might even get something for, you know what I'm saying? But I don't know. That would be the one where I think, okay, that's kind of a wild card that if you make that trade, it might really pay off. But I mean, like you said, looking at strength of schedule makes me nervous. I mean, it makes me nervous. You're out, you're out Palmer, you're out Williams. Quentin Johnston had a good touchdown this week, but I don't know really what you're getting there. You're just hoping every week Keenan Allen has a monster game and then you're fine. So I don't know. It's just tough. I would probably stick with Lamar, but that's just the name that came to mind where I was like, oh, he would be close to an upgrade. So I don't know.
I respect it. All right. To talk about some of the worst quarterbacks who rest of the season almost here. We mentioned the Chargers, the Eagles, the Jaguars, the Bucks, and the Chiefs. And I think we can all agree that we're not really concerned about not Herbert. Well, we might be concerned about Herbert, but Jalen Hurts, Pat Mahomes, not really concerned about. But Trevor Lawrence has been basically garbage this season here. And I think we can agree that rest of the season that, to be honest, if you have Trevor Lawrence still on your team, that you might want to just kind of let him go. Let him explore the redraft free agency and kind of go a different direction. Or do you expect him to potentially bounce back?
Oh, God, no. I don't expect him to bounce back, but I don't know if I'm just cutting him. I would definitely try and, if you're looking good, your team's solid, you're kind of in the hunt for the playoffs, I would certainly look at this and say, what can I trade him for Josh Dobbs? Like, can I get something, back for him?
I want Josh Dobbs right now, to be honest.
Yeah, of course. I do too. I'm not an idiot, but I'm just saying, like, it just feels weird to just straight up now. It feels to just straight up cut Trevor Lawrence feels really bad. It feels weird. But I get it. I totally get it. If you're in a one quarterback redraft, I get it. You don't need to hang on to him. But the problem is always going to be, well, it depends who you're cutting him for. Like, are you going to go pick up, Baker Mayfield? It's like,
Well, you don't need a second quarterback if you have one. I mean, again, he might be your starting quarterback.
Yeah, in a one quarterback league, I'm assuming he's your starter, and you've been struggling all year, and you finally are like, all right, enough's enough. But yeah, I mean, if he's your second
What
quarterback,
about Russell Wilson,
I would
or
take Russell Wilson
Trevor
over Trevor
Lawrence?
Lawrence. I would take Russ.
I think I might take Russ too right now. He's
Russ
averaging over
is
20
just a
fantasy points a
steady
game.
quarterback too. He's just like a steady high end quarterback too. Like he's like not high end. He's like a steady middle of the pack quarterback too. Trevor Lawrence is killing you right now. I mean, he had 3 fantasy points this past week. I mean, it's abysmal. And it's it's not like I always look for signs of like, oh, it can change or oh, it's going to improve. I haven't seen it all season. It's like it's just this is it, and maybe it's just because Travis Etienne is just on this crazy, sort of hot streak right now. But I don't know. I don't see like I don't see Calvin Ridley all of a sudden becoming a target monster. I don't see.
Well, that would be on Trevor Lawrence doing that.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, like I don't see these people like
throwing the ball.
I don't see these people like clicking all of a sudden and being like, "Oh, it took us till week 13, and all of a sudden we're now a high-powered offense." It's like, no, I think this is just Jacksonville right now, and they got some growing pains. They got to figure some stuff out, but I don't think this is like the type of thing you figure out mid-season. So it stinks, but I'm okay if you're willing to sort of totally move on from Trevor Lawrence. If you're in a 1 quarterback redraft, maybe you do cut him. I mean, maybe you do.
Jibs, anything to add in?
Nah, he's been trash. I know, like we were kind of like salivating over some of the rushing yards he was having like in the beginning of the season, but like that's kind of dissipated, and he's basically just he has some passing volume, but like the completion percentage has just dropped off the cliff. So like you can't really expect much after that.
I respect it. All right, let's get over to running backs here now, guys. All right, so let's look at the top running backs rest of the season. Basically, we have the Minnesota Vikings, we have the Houston Texans, we have the Chargers, we have the Lions, that sounds amazing, and we have the Browns, which also sounds amazing. So who sticks out saying, you know what, I don't care, I don't really think that's gonna matter for the rest of the schedule season? Which of these teams?
Houston, because the Lions
Devin Singletary just put up 21 fantasy points. Come on.
Sure.
Yeah,
sure.
Well, that was
what did he do the week before?
Out of like 10.
Yeah, he had 30 carries. I hope he would do something with them. I mean, you give any NFL starting running back 30 carries, they're gonna put up a decent fantasy day. It's just that's just
Damian Pierce.
I mean, that's just kind of the nature of volume. So. I do think Devin Singletary looked good and had a fine day, but do I think out of this list, what team does it not bother?
I respect. Yeah, I mean,
it doesn't bother. It doesn't change my. It doesn't change my opinion on Devin Singletary the rest of the season. How good his schedule is. He's still going to be a very volatile flex play, and then if Damian Pierce comes back, it's even worse, like even murkier.
So let me ask you guys this. Obviously Minnesota has the best, and we all know that Alexander Madison is supposed to post starter. More likely he's going to be out this week, so his value is probably hitting an all-time low already as it is. Is he someone you buy low on and see if maybe there's some potential for the rest of the season, or is it just too far gone from what he's not produced this year for you?
I'll buy low.
Yeah, depends what you're giving up, but for sure. If you're in a redraft league, yeah, absolutely. Why not? If you're in a dynasty league, I might be a little bit more cautious on adding that piece, even for a championship run, just because I'm really nervous of what's going to happen to him this offseason. So you might really only get like 6-7 games of usage.
Right.
So that's, to me, giving up like a late second for Alexander Madison, and you get 6. You know what I'm saying? You get 6 games out of it. It's like I don't know. I wouldn't do that. But redraft for sure. I think Alexander Madison could be fine. It could be a solid RB2 for you on a championship run.
Right. All right. Yeah. I mean, I'm a little torn on it still personally. I think some of these remaining games are a little bit more of a pass catching backs per game basis. But yeah, I mean, if you can find the right trade, it's not terrible. Now, a guy like Jerome Ford, guys, obviously we saw Jerome Ford just come out with a big game. He looks like he's still the guy there. We all love what Kareem Hunt's doing with the touchdown in 5 straight games, but in terms of usage on the ground, it's Jerome Ford still. Now, he's got a good schedule rest of the season. Would you consider trading for him to, giving away one of these old other guys who aren't really performing, like a Tony Pollard, a Derrick Henry, getting a guy like Ford and maybe something else attached to that? Or are you not really buying into the whole Ford situation right now?
Yeah, I would buy into it. And Ford is like a name that you could buy in a dynasty. I'm doing both dynasty and redraft, but
right.
Dynasty, Ford is someone that you could buy into, and you might have something next year too. You know what I'm saying? Versus Alexander Madison, you could buy into, and you might have nothing next year. So Ford is a much more intriguing name to me if you're in a dynasty format and you're making a run. I'm willing to part with some pieces to go get Jerome Ford. And then in redraft too, I'm willing to move on from a Derrick Henry or a Tony Pollard, go get Jerome Ford plus. Like, that's great. That'd be great.
Definitely on the Tony Pollard side, I agree. Like, he's just been a headache in most parts. I don't think Henry has that bad of a schedule. It's just like
he's like sixth. He is like 6th or 7th. So I will give you all that. He is like 6th or 7th based on the list I found. So he's not far off from the top.
Yeah, I guess it'll depend what that other piece is if I'm selling Henry, but I'll definitely like to keep him. He's still the vocal part of the offense. It's just if they get blown out, he's not getting the work.
Right. All right. Let's talk about the worst side. The worst remaining schedule. We have the Panthers with Chuba Hubbard and whatnot. The Bears in that 3-man committee that's coming in. We have Seattle with Ken Walker. The Bills with James Cook. And Washington with Brian Robinson, who just had an explosive game.
What a crazy game for Brian Robinson, huh?
And it was all in the passing game.
It was all in the passing.
Let's talk about Brian Robinson. Is he a good sell high candidate right now in your eyes? In redraft or in dynasty, whatever it may be. Is he a good sell high right now for you?
Sure. Yeah. I think so.
Bye week 2.
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
I don't. Really
Brian Robinson's good player, but if you can sell him, especially if you're not a contender or in dynasty, and you can sell him for some picks or some young development players, it's worth it to me. And redraft, if you could trade him off this monster performance that he basically did through the air, which won't happen again, then sure, absolutely, go for it.
Would you guys sell Brian Robinson? I don't know if you need to give a piece or not. You might need to for like Saquon, for like Joe Mixon.
Oh, yeah. Not Joe Mixon.
No, Mixon.
Not Joe Mixon.
Well, what about straight up Joe Mixon and whatnot? Straight up, and that one is
Joe Mixon for Brian Robinson. Straight up, I have Brian Robinson.
Yes.
Oh,
I just can't stand Joe Mixon.
Yeah,
you can say no. You don't have to.
Yeah, I would probably say no, but that's so crappy because he is a starting running back on a high-powered offense. But I just and that's usually the archetype I like. But I would say no. I would say no as well.
Okay,
but Saquon, I mean, this week was bad. We all knew it was going to be bad. I don't think it's going to be that terrible every other game, and he's the only player on that offense. He's everything. So
I respect it.
Saquon I'd probably do. But Mixon that's a tough pill to swallow.
Because Brian Robinson's RB4 on the season.
Crazy.
So know.
I mean, crazy. Right? We all predicted that.
No one really believes in the talent, or is it the talent, or is it the offense?
My biggest gripe with Brian Robinson has always been offense, and then talent to the regard of, but he showed it here was pass catching. But he just showed it this past week, so maybe I should shut up. But my attitude was always, Brian Robinson is like a kind of a little bit more explosive Damian Harris. Like, he's just like good between, like, runner, solid guy, get you your touchdowns. But then he goes and has a game like this, and you're like, oh, maybe he's more. But I don't know. I think more that this could be this one game of 100+ reception yards is more of an outlier. Okay.
Anything to add, Jibs?
I think I'm changing my tune on Mixon a bit. Get out of the bye. He's just basically a 70% like snap guy, so you got his workhorse. So you don't have to worry about like him being off the field better
He's the only one
offense.
seeing
So,
the work, so
yeah, so
Yeah.
I might actually do it.
I respect it. I
But
respect
yeah,
it.
I definitely don't trust the Washington offense. So
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, he's been consistent enough, but like it's like those 2 boom weeks are really big boom weeks, and I think that's maybe propelling his up because he's got 2 games over 20, he's got 4 other games over 10, and then his worst game is 6. So it's like most running backs who are flex options could do that barely. So
Right.
But I get it, and I think he is a sell high candidate. I mean, I'd want to sell and package him to get one of the higher backs if you can, but people might not just be buying into Robinson, and I don't think we are really buying in him to that extent either. So, all right, so let's get over to the wide receivers here now. The best wide receivers remaining schedule the rest of the season. We have the 49ers, the Colts, the Packers, the Patriots, and the Cowboys. So if you're a CD Lamb owner, you must be loving your life rest of the season.
Holy smokes.
Again, let's see here. Let's talk about a guy like Michael Pittman Jr. Coming off a really solid games, going into a bye, could be a good time to go out and buy him. Maybe not at a complete low, but maybe buy him. Would you guys consider getting your hands on Michael Pittman right now if you can?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think he's, we talked about it when Gardner Minshew took over, that the passing weapons are just going to see more of a better floor. And clearly we've seen that with Michael Pittman. Still can have a big play, big spike week, but you're getting a solid amount of targets, so he's never really going to kill you. I'm totally comfortable trying to add Michael Pittman in dynasty formats as well. If you're a contender and you want to give up a piece, I think he's a good stretch run guy and he'll have a big role next year. I'm totally fine with it. So Pittman. And then a little kind of shout out and love to Josh Downs as well. If you want to get sort of a piece of that Indy offense for the kind of cheap, I think Josh Downs is a good addition as well. He could, in redraft, he could even be a throw-in piece on a bigger deal, and he could be a great flex play rest of the season.
I like that. I'm definitely intrigued in Pittman. I think last 5 games, he's basically 10 target guy. He's a target hog. He's like a decaffeinated version of Keenan Allen. And so, and the skin color works that way as well. But dude, I'm down to get him, give him the schedule and all that good stuff. So Gardner Minshew's going to throw it to him, and sure, like he won't have those crazy boom weeks, but he's providing a pretty damn good floor with the targets and his receiving volume.
All right, I like it. Now let's talk about let me bring up another trade potential here. We saw Keenan Allen coming off a big week, big week, but we have concerns with Herbert and the rest of this Chargers offense potentially here. Would you move a guy like Keenan Allen to get a slight downgrade because Keenan Allen's wide receiver 3, Michael Pittman's wide receiver 13 on the season? Would you move down to Michael Pittman and maybe get like a back or something plus on it to your team, or would you rather still have Keenan Allen over Pittman in that sense?
I'm okay with it. It would have to be a pretty significant back. I would have to be a pretty significant other piece. I
Jerome Ford and Michael Pittman for Keenan Allen. You get a running back you might need as an RB2.
Oh, that's so close. That's so close. I mean, that really is like if your team's struggling at running back, you might do it. I think in a vacuum, I probably still wouldn't. That's so close, though. I just don't know if, either Jerome Ford or Michael Pittman have the ability to do what we just saw Keenan Allen do, which is put up, 40 plus points. So that's tough. Like that's hard to do. But if you're dealing with running back injuries and you're rolling out guys like freaking Zeke and whoever else every other week, it's like, yeah, I get why you'd want to shore up that, running back spot and get Jerome Ford. And then you just kind of take your lumps and say, okay, I'm not getting as much of a ceiling with my wide receiver, but I'm gaining some points here in my running back room because I'm sick of Deonta Foreman. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get that. I totally get that piece of it as well. So I think in a vacuum, no, I wouldn't. But if your team is really struggling at running back, the deal makes sense.
I'm sticking with Keenan Allen. All reliable.
I respect it. All right. On to the war side here. We have the Falcons. We have the Dolphins, the Bucks, the Bills, and the Chargers here. So, are we going to say that we don't care about the schedule? Miami and Buffalo are locks.
Yeah.
They're top two guys for the most part. Besides maybe Gabe Davis at times, are pretty much you're going to roll with them most times anyway, no matter what the schedule looks like, right?
100%.
I'm glad you brought up Gabe Davis. He's the one that would scare me. Like, I don't know how often maybe he has a big game today and you can trade high on Gabe Davis and go get something. But yeah, that would be the scary piece, because to me, you watch the past couple games, Dalton Kincaid has really been their number 2 option. So you're really hoping for like a bomb play from Davis to salvage your week.
Would you, if Gabe Davis has a good game tonight, would you trade Davis straight up for Josh Downs? Josh Downs. Would you trade up?
Oh, yeah.
That potential that he offers.
Yeah, I think I would, to be honest with you. I think I probably would. And you might be able to get Josh Downs plus something.
Give me 2 receivers, guys.
Yeah, you could get Josh Downs plus, who knows, right? So if he goes out there and has, a typical Gabe Davis, 100-yard touchdown game, and you're like, yeah, here you go. And the Josh Down manager is like, this guy's going into a bye week. He just put up a dud for me. And you could make that trade. You could get Josh Downs plus. And I think rest of season, that trade will look good in your favor.
I respect it. All right. I like it. Yeah. I mean, again, the Chargers, you still rock with Keenan Allen. The Bucks could be a little situational. I think Mike Evans has proven enough that he's their true wide receiver 1. Chris Godwin has some concerns moving forward. I don't really think you can get much value right now for Chris Godwin. I don't think anyone is like, oh, Chris Godwin, or either way, no matter what your dynasty or redraft right now, he's kind of just that middle, like low end wide receiver 3 type. Definitely sucks for Drake London, especially seeing Desmond Ridder back at quarterback. So, but that's for another day. So, all right, let's get to the tight ends here. This one should probably be really quick and easy. The best remaining schedule for the tight ends, we have the Ravens. Obviously, a good thing for Mark Andrews. We have Minnesota, TJ Hawkinson. We have the Browns with David Njoku. Tyler Conklin has been coming off a pretty nice stretch. And Tennessee's Chico Conqua. On the war side, we have the Rams with Tyler Higbee. We have Jacksonville with Evan Ingram. Pittsburgh with potentially Pat Freiermuth coming back soon. The Giants with Daniel Bellinger, and the Chargers with Gerald Everett here. So again, let me kind of combine this section here because it's tight ends, and really you keep your tight ends. Does the Jags offense in general make you want to move off of a guy like Evan Ingram right now? He's been very solid all season, very good for the most year, and just coming off his worst game. Does the rest of the season schedule for this Jags offense scare you off of a guy like Evan Ingram?
Yeah. I mean, sure. I mean, he's a not marginal, but he's like right on the edge of being one of those like must start every week tight ends. And so if you tell me he's going to have a bad matchup for the rest of the week, for the rest of the season, and we just talked about our concerns with Trevor Lawrence. Yeah. I mean, I get that you might not want to just lock him into your lineup every week. And so, you might need to, maybe you do package him and, someone else up and get a little upgrade at tight end, which is, I don't know really which direction you'd go, but
it's tough.
It's tough. Really, it's always tough.
If you have an elite tight end, you do not get rid of them.
Yeah, it's just tough because the top 3 guys never move off a team. Kelsey Andrews and Hawkinson aren't going to move. Maybe you can go.
I think there's 7 tight ends.
Yeah, I mean,
that are untouchable. Personally.
So who else would you add?
Yeah, Kelsey, Laporta, Kincaid.
Kittle, yeah, Kincaid. Yep. So there's 6. Yeah, you're probably right. And then, yeah. So I mean, it's tough, but I think you have to at least consider, kind of when you're starting.
Do you take the upside that Dalton Schultz offers at times? I mean, he had some pretty big games.
That's actually a great.
Or would you rather prefer to keep Cole Kmet? Cole Kmet's also having some big games recently. Do you prefer to go for one of them, or do you want to just stick with the reliableness that, Evan Ingram has given us this season. I mean,
I would take Schultz over Evan Ingram rest of season. Cole Kmet, probably not. I would probably still stick with the security of Evan Ingram. Yeah, it just because
Cole Kmet's tight end 5, Evan Ingram's tight end 12 on the year.
I know. It's just because the problem with Cole Kmet is he could do 25 points or he could get you 0. Like legitimately 0. And it's like, that's a crazy game to play. I don't know. I don't have the stomach for that. And then you have to watch the Bears offense and root for the Bears offense, which is also not fun. So
for me, I'll consider Schultz, but I'm definitely with John on the Bears. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, and then you have to deal with the additional bye week. So,
no, I feel you. I understand that. All right, so that is the strength and schedule. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed that. Hopefully, it was a little educational for you guys. So let's get over to the waiver wire talk here now. Last week, Joshua Dobbs, Tyler Heineke. Josh Dobbs obviously did really good. Heineke got hurt. Keaton Mitchell, if you had started him, he did good. Tank Bigsby saw a few more touches, but nothing really. Ty Chandler saw a touchdown, but if you picked him up in advance, he saves you for this waiver wire, so which would be great. Jalen McLaughlin will find out tonight. Leonard Fournette will maybe find out tonight. I don't know if he's even playing. Zach Charbonnet, he got a little bit of work in, but mostly just a bench guy. Wide receiver Demario Douglas had a really solid outing. Noah Brown had a big game. I was definitely not on that, so that's my fault. Zay Jones was out again. Khalil Shakir will find out tonight. Quentin Johnson caught a touchdown, had 40 yards, not terrible. Marvin Mims will find out tonight. Kate Otten, bad game. Chico Conquo, bad game. Jonas Smith, bad game. Luke Musgrave had a touchdown. So solid game out of him. So let's see if we can do a little bit better. We're not going to do our own rankings this time around, but we're going to just talk about the overview of waiver wires for each position here. So starting with quarterbacks. I'm going to run through the list and then we'll talk about them. Quarterbacks that are probably over that 40% mark, more than likely, Matthew Stafford, Russell Wilson, Jordan Love, Josh Dobbs, Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray. Guys who are under that 40% mark, it's really not pretty right now. Will Levis, Tommy DeVito, Aiden O'Connell, those are the ones that have good matchups. Dynasty, you might want to be looking for maybe Matt Barkley taking over at some point. Bailey Zappi might be out there with the whole Mac Jones situation. Jameis Winston on a bye. You might be able to pick him up on the cheap now because no one's worrying about the Saints. And I think Matthew Stafford is going to be back, but maybe Carson Wentz. He signed with them last week here. Guys, I don't really want to ask you guys about the under 40% guys because I really don't care about any of them. But if Joshua Dobbs, who is your best quarterback? And I might have gave him away. Well, maybe not. I don't know. Who is your favorite quarterback in that 60-40% range right now to pick up if they were all out there?
Josh Dobbs. Yeah, for me, it's Josh Dobbs.
Over Murray.
Yep.
Okay. I like it. I don't hate it because I don't hate that.
Yeah. I think there's just, you have there's just something going on with Josh Dobbs right now that's pretty magical. He just seems to be playing at an elite level. And there's the chance that you get Justin Jefferson back any week. And so, I mean, I don't know. I just think that sometimes guys have these sort of little magical runs and you got to kind of ride it out. Kyler Murray, obviously, long-term is probably a better answer than Josh Dobbs. But in the interim, in the short term, I don't know. I might take the ride with Josh Dobbs and see what happens.
I'm with that magic ride with Josh Dobbs, just getting them rushing touchdowns, baby. He has potent offensive weapons. He's definitely been playing longer than Kyler Murray has this year. So I'll take Dobbs, and if those two are gone, you probably should be looking at Stafford because other than that, you're going to be just picking up people who got dropped last week if you're desperate this week.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I'm leaning towards Dobbs too, which is crazy. Even though I have my Kyle Murray in most of my redraft leagues right now, just stashed on my IR. Not anymore, but yeah, Dobbs is he's averaging a rushing floor about like 40 yards a game. He's got over 200 passing yards per game, and he's scoring like 2 touchdowns per week. I mean, you can't ask for anything else. I mean, he's going to get Justin Jefferson back at some point. He's going to have a better weapon core than Kyler Murray has ever had in his basically NFL career, and they don't have a run game, so they're not going to run the ball for anything. So at least James Conner's back and ran decently well in his first game. I it's weird to say that Joshua Dobbs is a guy I really want to have right now. You know, John, what's the potential that Bailey Zappi is the starting quarterback next week? Or the week after?
Pretty good. Pretty good. I think, you know, if they pull the plug on Mac Jones after the bye week, that's it. They're making a decision that's it for Mac Jones. He's done. And so that is honestly a big, and it's hard, but that's a big conversation that the Patriots organization is going to have, because you cannot come out of the bye week, put Mac Jones out there, and then bench him again in the fourth quarter if he doesn't look good. You can't. So, and if you're going to make the change, the bye week is the change to do it, because you have 2 weeks to get Bailey Zappi ready. And so to me, it makes sense. I don't think that obviously Mac Jones isn't the future. Obviously, you know, they're going to figure out quarterback in the offseason regardless. But yeah, Bailey Zappi could and should be the guy coming out of the bye.
I respect it. All right. So let's get over to our running backs overview now. We got a lot of running backs, not a lot, but there's a good amount of running. This is a little bit more conversational compared to the quarterback position. Running backs in that 40 to 60% range that you might be able to find on waivers still. Keaton Mitchell, Devin Singletary, Zach Charbonnet, Tajay Spears is just over 40. Zeke Elliott, Antonio Gibson. Under that 40% mark, these are guys that are relatively available. Ty Chandler, Leonard Fournette, Jalen McLaughlin, Rico Dowling, Kenny Gainwell, Elijah Mitchell, Roshan Johnson, basically your backup stud at running back, and then some dynasty guys. Ty Chandler is probably out there more times than you think now. Myles Gaskins just signed with the Vikings practice squad, and with the Alexander Mattison situation, he might be worth a pickup again in fantasy and not do anything with. So let's talk about the top guy. And we'll talk about the 40 and 60% guys in just a moment, but Ty Chandler, you know, would you be going out there and spending money on Ty Chandler for the week, or are you're not really caring to go after him as the top guy? Jibs?
I'll dabble. I'll probably say times are getting rough, so I'll definitely put 15-20% of my remaining budget on him, especially given the schedule that we talked about earlier in the episode. Matchups are good, baby.
All right. John?
I love Ty Chandler. I liked him as a prospect. I liked him in the preseason process. So yeah, I'm willing. I was high on him last week. I figured people should add him then. So I'm gonna keep singing that same song. You should add him now. And there's a chance that you get a backfield. You get at least 1 week where he's got the backfield to himself. Explosive player. You know, if you liked Keaton Mitchell, you're gonna love Ty Chandler. So you know, that's cool. And then there's also the possibility that it becomes maybe he carves out a role even with Alexander Mattison there, which before Alexander Mattison got knocked out, he was still getting work.
He was, yeah. And he's got Denver next week. It could be a situation where he has a flex appeal in fantasy, because they're going to have to run the ball a little bit. They still need to. Myles Gaskin hasn't been on the team that long, on and off. Ty Chandler is the only one that's there. I think there's that one return guy, Kiki Unugwa or something like that.
Ngannou,
yes. He's a speedster guy, but I don't really see him seeing a guy who's going to break in. It looks like it's Ty Chandler. I wouldn't spend too much on it. I mean, I'm not really banking on him to be a league-winning guy rest of the season, but he could get you through a week or two if you need to in fantasy. Again, everyone else is just backups. I mean, you know, it's really like you take your poison on who you think is going to get hurt, and then that backup's going to jump in and hopefully take over. Now, if Keaton Mitchell is out there, because this should be interesting, because obviously we know this Ravens backfield is a 3-man committee. I don't know what it is now, but are you breaking the bank from what you saw now 2 weeks in a row, whatever you have left on Fab, to go get Keaton Mitchell? Or you were like, you know, maybe not all of it, but I'll buy in big.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I mean, I think you can. I think you certainly can. You know, my opinion, honestly, with Keaton Mitchell is similar to Ty Chandler. So if you can save money and just get Ty Chandler, like that's fine too. I mean, Keaton Mitchell's great. He's a good player, but there's a reason he was undrafted or late in the draft. And, you know, he's not going to take over this backfield from Gus, or he's just going to be a very good guy who, if he gets 8 touches and he could somehow turn it into 80 yards and a score, you're psyched. But I don't think, he's going to all of a sudden, command 80, 60, 70% of a backfield and all these touches. So I'm okay, but I'm not dumping all my fab. The only person really that I would consider putting a lot of fab down on, and we talked about it, which is kind of crazy, is Devin Singletary. I mean, he's the one who looks like, he's going to get a lot of volume and, be a play week in, week out, comfortable play week in, week out. So I don't know. I like Keaton Mitchell. I like him a lot, but I don't know if I'm like, I think this idea that he's like going to take the job away from, Justice Hill and Gus Edwards, to me is a little sort of hopeful.
I'm definitely not dumping the bank on him. Like, the guy is only playing 24% of the snaps. I think he was up from 18% of the snaps last week. So his volume was basically cut in third. He's making great efficiency and usage out of his time on the field, but it's speed, and you still got to play with Lamar, Gus, Justice Hill, whoever. And sure, like, you could spend a significant chunk, but I wouldn't go balls deep on it whatsoever, though.
I respect it. All right. We have a couple questions that are coming in right now. I have a question on Twitter saying, how does Zach Ertz's eventual return affect Trey McBride's outlook? Again, we don't know if Zach Ertz is coming back or not yet, but would you trade Trey McBride right now for Sam Laporta?
Yes.
100%.
Yes, I would as well. Yeah. I mean, what you're looking at is, we don't know if Zach Ertz will ever come back. We don't know. We have no idea. But that Sam Laporta is a big part of this offense rest of the season, no matter what. There's nothing going to come in that's going to take his time away. With Trey McBride, maybe there is. But they're both great.
Sam Laporta looked like an NFL pro-ready tight end week 1. Like, it's only going to get better as this guy continues his career.
Right.
It's crazy.
Right. Absolutely. I have another question from Pay King here. I have to drop one. Christian Watson. Not sure who. Charbonnet?
Charbonnet, probably.
Or Dameon Pierce. Which one are you dropping right now?
Oh, boy. My gut reaction is Dameon Pierce. That's my gut reaction. But I understand positional value of a running back. That's tough to find.
Yeah, it is tough to find.
But even if he comes back, so say he's, somewhat healthy, comes back next week, does he go back to being the guy over Devin Singletary? I'm not confident in that. So, then you have a guy who's in a 50-50, 60-40 committee in an offense that throws the ball at an insane rate. And he didn't look good when he had the job to himself anyway. So I don't know. I just don't know a world where you're like, unless something crazy happens, I don't know a world where you're like psyched to be putting Dameon Pierce in your lineup. At least the other two, there's some hope. There's some,
To be honest, I think if it's Christian Watson, I kind of want to drop Christian Watson. I mean,
that's fine.
What has Jordan Love shown us that, like, Jordan Love knows how to get the deep ball downfield, which was what Watson's specialty was last year. Yeah. It's just not coming down that way. He's not throwing deep enough to trust him. And we're seeing it the rest of the season now, is that Watson isn't doing anything. He's seen 4 or 5 targets a game, but he's getting 30, 40 yards a game. I mean, unless you need a wide receiver that badly, personally, I think you could find one on waivers at some point. That's how I feel about it.
So true.
That's not.
Noah Brown was on waivers and he went off for 170 yards. Like, you're not finding too many running backs. I mean, Devin Singletary just did that too, but there's still potential for Pierce to come back and take over. There's potential for Ken Walker to get hurt and Zach Charbonnet takes over. I just don't see a situation where Christian Watson the rest of the season becomes a very reliable wide receiver too.
Oh, he's about to go on a tear. Dameon Pierce for me.
I respect it. I'm okay with that too. I'm fine with Dameon Pierce. I hate Dameon Pierce with a passion. So. But yeah, that's what we have to say on that picking. All right. So let's get back. And there's really not too many other questions at running back that we care about. Obviously, we've talked about basically a lot of these situations here. I think if anything, Roschon Johnson's going to get cut in a lot of leagues after this week. Yeah. again, there's really no one. Unless Jalen McLaughlin has a really good game, he isn't somebody that I'm actively trying to go out there and get. It's not a great week for running back, unfortunately, but it's what it is. All right, let's go over to wide receiver here. And there could be a ton of wide receivers in this 60-40% range. I just didn't have time to add all these wide receivers, but there's a wide receiver out there that, why is he out there? He probably shouldn't be. But Elijah Moore had a nice touchdown this week. Tyler Boyd. But the people we want to talk about are actually, I think I prefer half the people under the 40% mark over anyone like Elijah Moore's or the Tyler Boyd's right now. Yeah, I want the Demario Douglas, the Noah Browns. Brandon Cooks is apparently under 40% now. He's coming off a big game. Jaden Reed's coming off another strong game, 2 in the last 3. Khalil Shakir, we'll find out tonight if he does anything more. Michael Wilson coming off. Didn't do that great, but Kyle Murray's back, so there's potential for him. Michael Thomas's injury is long-term. A.T. Perry actually played the most snaps among all the wide receivers. He plays that big. He's that big physical guy. Jonathan Mingo still playing almost all the offensive snaps in that Panthers bad offense. Zay Jones is hopefully coming back soon enough. Odell caught another touchdown this past week. Quentin Johnson had a touchdown, which was nice. Some dynasty guys. Jalen Guyton actually played the second most wide receiver snaps on the Chargers. He used to be their deep threat at one point. Jalen Napier. I can't even say his last name. Naylor. Thank you. He started seeing work in this offense with KJ Osborne out. Again, he might not be a big thing. Brandon Powell, they might not be big things. Xavier Gibson, if maybe Aaron Rodgers comes back by the playoffs, man, explosive. Kyle Phillips caught another, 40, 50 yards. Donovan Wicks, is that how you say his name?
Yeah.
Am I saying it right? All right, Donovan Wicks. He's the fourth guy on the Packers, but he's consistently seeing 4 catches for 40 yards most weeks. I mean, he's gaining value in this Packers offense, even though there's already 3 good guys in front of him. But in Dynasty, he should definitely be rostered because you just never know in a given season. There could be changes next year to that Packers wide receiver core. So let's talk about Demario Douglas. John, you're the Patriots guy here. He's going on a bye. I don't know if he's the biggest pickup this week or not. Or is it Noah Brown? Or something?
I think you probably have more rest of season value with Demario Douglas than you do Noah Brown. But if you need a guy for next week, obviously Demario Douglas is on bye. And you might still, Robert Woods coming back is looming. I don't know.
He was back this week.
Was he really?
But Nico Collins was out. So
yeah.
All 4 of those guys on the field together in a while.
Yeah. So I think that there is just more long-term value for rest of season with Demario Douglas, but I mean, Noah Brown's playing out of his mind right now. So you can absolutely pick him up and play him this coming week. But I think Demario Douglas has established himself as the guy in New England. Take that for what it's worth, because God knows they can't throw the ball. But Bailey Zappi coming in might be a good thing for him, because he is basically like a Jameis Winston-esque, just kind of trucks it up, throws it around, does whatever he can with the ball, and will make big mistakes, but will make big plays too. Kind of the opposite of Mac Jones. Mac Jones has no big plays, but still plenty of mistakes. But I think probably venting. I think probably, obviously, if you need someone next week, Noah Brown is the grab. But rest of season, I'd much rather have Demario Douglas.
Jibs, who do you like on this list outside of Douglas and Brown? Is there someone else that piques your interest?
I have a couple. I think Michael Wilson's intriguing with Kyler Murray's return. I know Marquise Brown didn't have a good game, but I did see, I think a play, and Michael Wilson almost had an end zone grab. So he's a little steady Eddie. I know he has the Texans next week, and they're high octane offense nowadays. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Cardinals have to scrap that running game with Connor and have to throw the ball and unleash Murray. And let's see, Khalil Shakir, he's been somewhat, if you're playing in PPR leagues and you need a nice little floor flex play, he's been all right. He has at least 4 receptions. He's been shorthanded. He's catching everything that goes to him, so you don't have to worry about the drops. And given the matchup next week against the Jets, you'll see Stephon Diggs and probably Gabe Davis have some tough times out there, so they'll probably have to just lean on Dalton Kincaid and some alternate receivers. So I like Shakir there. And then sneaky, I like Kyle Phillips though. If Treylon Burks doesn't come back, like he's just been the slot guy for him, and he led the team in reception yards last week. So sneaky play right there.
All right, I like it. Yeah. Again, there's some decent options out there for sure. Noah Brown's definitely overall good to grab this week. Obviously, Brandon Cooks, if he's still out there, which I'm surprised he's even under that 40%. I guess really people are really just down on him. Jaden Reed, I still really like a lot as a guy who I think will see a lot of work in that slot, and he continues to see it. I mean, he's got 2 games over 80 yards in the last 3 weeks here. So he's definitely someone who I am considering over a lot for overall. So yeah, the wide receivers are a little bit better, but still not the greatest. So, all right, let's go over the tight end position here real quick, guys. For the tight end position, we have no one over the 40 to 60% range because I couldn't find anybody on a general sense. I just didn't think of anyone. Like if you have a tight end, you have one of the elite ones and they're all taken. And if you don't, they're probably under that 40% mark.
Yeah, 60 to 40% owned is a weird range for a tight end.
Yeah, It's like no one's like,
it's either 100 or it's like I don't know.
I couldn't think of any. But real quick, tight ends under 40%: Michael Mayer, Luke Musgrave, Tyler Conklin, Daniel Bellinger, Hunter Henry, Cade Otton, Jonnu Smith, all guys who are under that 40% range that you could potentially grab this week. And some of them you can start, some of them obviously on bye. For dynasty rosters, Tanner Hudson, the Bengals tight end, coming off some pretty decent play the last few weeks here now. Interesting to see how his play is. Probably not great enough in redraft yet, but in dynasty is worth an add. And then obviously we know Dallas Goedert unfortunately is out for an extended period of time for right now. So Jake Stool or Albert O, we remember Albert O from Denver, all could be dynasty option pickups. So guys, give me quickly one tight end that you really would want to go out there and grab in fantasy right now.
Believe it or not, go for it. No, go for it, Jibs.
And like I know if it's kind of gross with all this Packer slander we've been given on the show today, but he's just making it work for like really nothing. Like he has 8 targets, 5 receptions, 115 yards, a touchdown, maybe 2, but seems to be a reliable option. And I just know like the rest of these guys are kind of like snake oil in a way. You're gonna have some good weeks, you're gonna have some bad weeks. So that's the best I could do for you. 40 under 40%.
Yeah, and I think, believe it or not, I mean, I like Luke Musgrave. I think that's great. He's obviously a good option. I just want to give a little love to Tyler Conklin, who's just been sort of steady, getting points. You know, obviously the Jets offense is not a potent offense, so the touchdowns might not be there, but he's getting targeted and he's getting, yardage in, so over the rest of these names, I would, believe it or not, trust him. I trust him more than a Michael Mayer. I trust him more than Hunter Henry. Jonnu Smith, I think, is finally cooled off after his, crazy stretch there for 4 or 5 weeks, whatever it was. But Tyler Conklin just chugging away, four receptions every week.
Oh, wow. I just looked at his game luck. I changed my mind.
He's been playing well.
Tyler Conklin. It's
did not know the Jets could have a guy like that.
Exactly. You don't expect it because the Jets offense is so putrid to watch, but he is just kind of, steady. He just gets it done.
Steady Eddie, yeah. And then Aaron Rodgers might be coming back, so
that's crazy to even think about. That's crazy to even think about.
Yeah, absolutely. So me, Luke Musgrave is still a guy I really like to own. If you're still streaming tight ends, he's seeing enough work. It's better than what most people are offering you. It's consistent, but not great, but not bad either. So he's definitely a guy I've been. Ooh, something happened. Oh no.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that was weird. Sorry, guys. I lost I don't know what happened, but so my whole thing's gone. So that's
top quarterback options.
Yeah. So Luke Musgrave is definitely a guy that I do like. Oh, we have one more question in here. So happy Monday, guys. Do you think it's time to move on from Lamar Jackson? Oh, you missed the whole beginning portion of the show. We talked about Lamar Jackson the whole time. But if you have CJ Stroud as your starter, let's talk about this real quick. Do you move on Lamar Jackson? I'm assuming it's redraft. Let me know if it's not. But assuming it's redraft, do you just move on and try to get a good player for Lamar Jackson? Or would you have Lamar Jackson or CJ Stroud rest of the year? How about that?
I don't know if I'm moving on in the sense of trading him away, but I'm moving on in the sense of I would start CJ Stroud some weeks over Lamar Jackson. But it's nice to have both options, especially if you're going to go for a playoff push and you want to make a run and all that. Like I'm not.
It's dynasty. It's not redraft.
Oh yeah. So then, yeah. So I'm not trading. I'm not trading them away. I'm going to ride both of these guys out. But in terms of like, do I think it's time to move on in terms of like auto starting Lamar Jackson over CJ Stroud? Like, yeah, it's time to move on from that concept. Like, you definitely need to look at matchups. You definitely need to sort of pick your spots. And some weeks you got to play Stroud. Some weeks you got to play Lamar. But yeah, these are two phenomenal options in dynasty. Or what the hell, man? I just traded for Mac Jones in dynasty.
Well,
don't talk to me about
the thing is that Lamar Jackson's getting older. We all know that Lamar Jackson isn't going to be able to keep up this rushing flow forever. You know, he's going to be 27, 28 next season. Let me look that up real quick. He's 26 now, so he's going to be 27 next season. I think like the stat I found a while ago, like I think the last quarterback to ever rush for 800 yards, I think might have been Michael Vick when he was with the Eagles at some point. But outside of that, like no other quarterback has rushed for that. So that rushing aspect might be going away, you know, and I think that's why he maybe is bringing this up is that, you know, I have CJ Stroud now. Like, do I move on from Jackson?
If you're in the contention of a championship, you don't trade him away now. But in the offseason, if you want to trade away Lamar in the offseason, for sure. Like, yeah, for sure you can make that trade. My point is more like it's nice to have the depth of both guys if you're trying to make a championship run. If you're out and you're not a contender, then yeah, trade Lamar to a contender for a haul right now, or ride both guys, try and win a championship, and then trade Lamar in the offseason. That's how I would do it.
Yeah, I'm down to flop the schedules. Like Stroud's definitely been on a tear, but like his matchups are a little bit more tenacious down the stretch. But if he's playing as good as he is, man, like you got two locked and loaded QB1s, and God forbid Lamar gets hurt. I know it's typically that time of the year, as it has been like last couple of years, but definitely keep both. Sell one in the offseason. Hey, who knows? You may could get like a truckload for CJ Stroud at this year, but obviously you don't want to sell a young quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on your situation at the end of the day here. And I think you guys both said it really good overall. I mean, you just if you're winning now, hold them on and wait until that offseason. If you're out of it, you're looking to move on now while he's, you know, contender, he's very valuable. Then move off him. I think you can move off him. I think it's getting to the point where I want to move off of Lamar Jackson myself personally. I just don't think his throwing will ever be there to an elite option where his rushing floor has been in his early part of his career. So, and that's going to go away at some point. So Lamar is going to be a guy I think that will eventually be an average quarterback, but not elite. So, and then one last question from Pay King here. Would you rather keep Deontay Foreman or I'm assuming Dameon Pierce from a similar question we had earlier. So would you rather hold on to Foreman or Pierce?
I guess Foreman, just because he's kind of playing better right now. They're both kind of similar marginal fantasy guys to me. But you know, Foreman's looked good in the work that he's gotten. Khalil Herbert's coming back any day, and that's going to stink. But Foreman's looked pretty good.
I'll go with Pierce because it's just too much rotation there. You even got like Darian Evans in there and all that stuff too. And who knows, maybe they could be like, hey, like I know our year isn't great, but let's give Roshan some more work. So
yeah, I mean, I'd still probably want to get Dameon Pierce just because I feel like there's more of a potential of him to really do that. So I don't know. I'd rather hold on to Dameon Pierce because you never know if they give him the job back. He's still young. So Foreman, we know who Foreman is. He's a good guy that can come in and put up 15 fantasy points any given week. But if you're giving him 7 carries a game, he's not going to do it on 7 carries. So
Yeah,
but,
sure.
Yeah. And then Kyle said Lamar is already above average passer, though. Yeah. But he's not putting up the numbers for fantasy. That's what I meant. That he's not putting up passing up numbers for fantasy. That's making us happy every week. Because in a 1 QB league, I'm fine selling either Lamar or Stroud for at top dollar for an elite wide receiver, as am I.
Yes,
and I think that's what we're all in there. So, all right. So we're going to wrap things up tonight, guys. Thank you all for who tuned in, threw in some questions. We love that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the show. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the strength of schedule talk. Hopefully you guys enjoyed waiver wire talk. Let's see here. Coach John, I'll let you start first. Anything you want to say before we get going?
No, nothing. It's been great seeing all the new faces in the chat. So hit that subscribe button. We're getting some momentum. It's a lot of fun. And we're getting ready for playoffs and championship runs. So this is exciting times.
Absolutely. And Coach Gibbs.
And all the listeners who showed up tonight, come see us on Thursday, same time, same place, where we do our starts and sits. See you soon.
Absolutely, guys. And again, we appreciate you all once again for tuning in. Thank you so much. As always, please subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're already there. We love it. Add some comments, ask us questions. We love that too. If you're listening after on a Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you guys listen to our podcast, we do appreciate that as well. But always tune in onto the live show because it's a lot of fun. And we'll be back on Thursday talking start and sits for week 11. Obviously, we're here every Monday and Thursday, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we thank you all for listening once again, and tune in till next time, guys, and have a good one.
Back to back is not far-fetched. We got a couple of Clark